Hey folks, this is Vince with Dad's Gaming Addiction, and today we're going to take a very brief look at Suburbia, a game for 1 to 4 players, ages 8 and up, with the average playtime being about 90 minutes. Now this is a SimCity-esque kind of board game in that players will be building their very own town and trying to transform it into this metropolis. Now the goal here is for players to reach the highest population before the end of the game rolls around. So with that being said, let's take a quick moment to look at the components and see how the game is played. Okay, now before we actually begin, I just want to quickly apologize for the lighting here. There is plenty of sunshine coming through the window despite the fact that it's negative 4 million degrees outside. Yeah, the winter has not been kind to Pittsburgh. But I digress. What you're looking at here is a typical game setup. Just picture though that there's a similar player board on the other side of the table for the second player. I couldn't fit it all in one shot. Again, this is the typical game setup. You've got a population board and tracker here. There's a bunch of numbers and there's little trackers that each player will have to keep track of their progress on this population board. As more population moves into an individual player's town, they'll move their little square here up this track. And you'll even note some little red marks on this track. Every time a player crosses a red mark, they lose an income and reputation, which I'll explain in a minute. Now, you've also got these handy-dandy sort of reference boards here that players can look at if they get lost on their turn. You've also got player boards. There's a total of 4 of them. You've got red, this silverish black color, and yellow. And basically, each player board has income and reputation. There's 2 trackers. In fact, let me just show you this one. Might be easier. Alright, hopefully you guys can see that. But basically, yeah, there's an income tracker along the top here, and there's a reputation tracker along the bottom, and some values in the middle, ranging from -5 all the way up to 15. Players will be using cubes and little cylinders to keep track of that. Pull those out real quick. There we go. Each player will get a cylinder and a cube. These little squares here are for the population board. Alright, now you've also got some other things going on here. For one, there is this giant set of boards here in the middle that all players will be utilizing throughout the entire game. These little triangles separate from one another, as you can see. This top one in the right is the bank. This is basically where all the money is kept. Don't worry, there's more in the bag. I just didn't feel like dumping the entire thing onto the board. It doesn't all fit anyway. You've also got in the middle here this giant triangular board, some extra tiles that players can purchase, sort of like a public pool of suburbs, community parks, and heavy factories. And you've also got your public goals listed here. The number of public goals that each player will see all depends on how many people are playing the game. In a 2-player game, there are 2 public goals, for example. Basically, if players can satisfy these goals by the end of the game, they'll earn some extra population to put toward their total. Let's see what else we got. We got the stack board over here. There's an A stack, a B stack, and a C stack. And basically, as players buy tiles from the market, which is right here, they'll be simply drawing from these stacks to replenish them. Players will start with the A stack. Once that is empty, they'll move on to the B stack, and once that is empty, they'll move on to the C stack. Somewhere in the C stack, this one more round tile will be seated toward the end, and basically this just signals that players will take one more round, and players will keep track of who went first during a game via this first turn marker. But basically, once all players have taken an equal number of turns after one more round, the game will end, and goals will be checked, money will also be factored into scoring, and whoever has the highest population will end up winning the game. Some other loose ends to tie up here as far as game setup is concerned. Each player will receive one of these player boards. They'll place their cube on the 1 reputation spot and their cylinder on the 0 income spot. And that is reflective of these 3 tiles that everyone will get at the beginning of the game. It must be set up in this fashion. You've got suburbs. Again, there's suburbs up there too. Players can buy more from this market up here. You've also got a community park and a heavy factory. All 3 of these, again, can be found up here. Now, this particular layout actually determines the starting income and reputation, and I'll explain how tiles work together in a minute. Each player also gets 15 money, basically 1 yellow, 1 silver, 1. Each player also gets 3 of these 2x tiles. Basically, you can play these on tiles that are already on your city or town to double its effect, and that could either net you net you income or reputation, or even make you lose income or reputation depending on the circumstances. And each player will also get some private goals. I mentioned that there are public goals up here, but each player will also get 2 private goals. Again, goals are ways for players to earn extra points or extra population at the end of the game. For example, there's this one here, most residential, most green that is, that'll earn the player 15 at the end of the game if they satisfy that goal. This one, this is the air traffic controller, basically the most airports or like structures, that'll earn the player 10 points. Now at the beginning of the game, each player will get 2, but they can only choose 1 to keep. So let's just say that this player wants to keep this one. He sees himself building a lot of green residential zones, so he's going to go ahead and discard this one and put it back in the box. Now, there was admittedly a few things I may have missed. For example, I think I didn't cover that. Each player will put their square on the 2 population space on the population board or tracker there. The market is initially seeded via the A stack, so there may be some other things I neglected, so I apologize if I missed them. In regards to how the game is played, each player will take turns performing a certain series of actions, and you can actually look at your reference board if you get stuck. But the first thing I want to do is cover the very first action on a player's turn. You can either take and place 1 tile from the market here. That involves you having to buy it and then place it into your town, or you can lay one of these 2x tiles onto an existing tile in your town or city. Now let's assume for the moment that the current player here wants to buy a tile from the market. And this is honestly where the really the length of the game comes into play and why the average play time is 90 minutes. You have to look at each individual tile to see which one would suit you best based on your current setup, and while also keeping in mind the public goals that are for everyone to see and the 1 private goal that only you can see. In this case, this player would earn points for buying residential tiles. If they have the most residential tiles at the end of the game, they'll earn themselves 15 bonus points or 15 bonus population. So this player may want to take that into consideration when buying tiles on their turn. Now, whenever they go to buy a tile, there's actually 2 different costs here, and they'll have to add those costs together. There is the market cost. There is a purple tracker, or not tracker, but just a little bar here along the bottom. Basically, this tells you how much extra cost this particular tile may end up being. Over here, these 2 tiles would be free. But as you go further up the market, it becomes more and more expensive. There is a +2 here, a +4 there, a +6, +8, and a +10. You'll add that value to the tile's individual cost. Let's just look at this one real quick. Hopefully I can focus in on this. The tile's individual cost is listed right here on the left. So if the player were to buy this tile, it would be 0 on the bar, +4. So the player would have to pay 4 of their coins to buy this and then place it into their current town or city. If the player wanted to purchase this farm, on the other hand, there is a +10 there, and on top of that, the individual tile costs 9. So the player would have to pay 19 of their coins in order to buy this one. Now, if you're worried about the cost of 1 tile on a particular turn, as tiles are purchased, they will slide to the right, becoming cheaper. So the more expensive tiles may end up being a lot cheaper as the game progresses, assuming no one picks them up in the process. In addition to looking at the cost, each player will have to look at the tile's effect when determining whether or not they should actually buy it. For example, let's say that the player spent 4 coin. In this case, let's trade in this 5, we'll get 1 back. Again, the cost is determined 0 plus the individual tile is 4, so that's 4 coins. So let's say that the player paid the necessary amount to purchase this tile, then they'll go ahead and try and place it into their city somewhere. But where they place it will actually adjust their income and reputation appropriately. Obviously, a player will want as much reputation and income as possible. Income will earn them more money at the end of the turn, and more reputation will earn them more population on the tracker here at the end of the turn. If you end up being in the negatives, you actually have to pay money and you actually lose population on the tracker. So you'll want to try and pay attention to where you're placing your tiles. In this case, I could put something, let's see, if I were to put it here, and I apologize if you can't read this. Let me actually bring these forward like this so you can actually see it. At the bottom of some of these tiles are some special effects. You've got, in this case, let's look at the community park. Positive one reputation for each adjacent industry, residential, and commercial zone. So basically, any yellow, green, or blue tile placed adjacent to this one will earn the player +1 reputation on their tracker. Like the heavy factory, there's another status down here. -1 for each adjacent, looks like community park tile and residential tile. So you'll actually lose some reputation by placing this green one like so. They would get +1 reputation from this community park for being adjacent to that, and then -1 reputation for being adjacent to the heavy factory. So the player wouldn't actually be able to adjust anything at the end of their turn. However, if the player were to place this up here instead, the suburbs tile has no special effect, but this one would still be observed. Again, this is +1 for each adjacent industry, residential, and commercial. In this case, the player would, at the end of their turn, earn +1 reputation. So we'll go ahead and slide this cube up to the 2, and then we'll go ahead and adjust the population tracker to match. In this case, at the end of the turn, they would go up 2 spaces, up to the 4. Now, once a player is done adjusting everything as far as the income and reputation and the different trackers, they'll go ahead and seed the market again. They'll move all of the existing ones over to the right. And then they'll go ahead and draw from the next available stack. Again, A to B to C. So we'll place that on the 10, or under the 10 here. And that's basically it. Players will be buying tiles on their turn, or possibly even playing these 2x tiles onto their existing tiles here. And will be trying to grow their city or town and gain income and reputation in order to buy even more tiles and increase their population on the board. And let's just assume for the moment that everyone else has taken their turn, bought tiles, whatever. It's not realistic, you know, it's a demonstration. So we're going to go ahead and come back to this player and do this again, just to sort of give you another example. He's got 11 coin left, having earned no income. His income is still at 0. So let's see if we can rectify that situation. Looking at these tiles, though, I don't know exactly what he could possibly do. This slaughterhouse might be good. That has a +1 here, but if you'll note, it does a number of different things. It actually gives you an immediate loss of -2 reputation. No one likes a slaughterhouse, and apparently no one likes a slaughterhouse. But you'll get +1 income for every restaurant. So that's a good thing. Unfortunately, I don't have any restaurants in my city right now, so this might not benefit me right now to play. Some other tiles to look at that provide income. Fancy restaurant. This might actually be good. I would earn +3 income. This is sort of like an immediate effect up here, while this explains the effect of the surrounding tiles. But having a +3 income from this might actually be good. However, it's -1 for all restaurants built after this one. So if I build this now, I probably won't, it won't behoove me to place more restaurants in the future. But again, the situations may allow me to do so without too much of a penalty. So let's go ahead and do this one. Again, the cost would be 0 plus 9. So I give up this 10, get 1 and change. I have 2 left. Now I just got to figure out where I want to put this bad boy. Okay, now in looking at the tiles available to me, the only one that is really affected by a commercial tile, these blue ones, is this community park. This community park, again, gives me plus 1 reputation for each adjacent industry, residential, and commercial zone. So I could put that up here. And let's go ahead and get my score going here. I get plus 3 income for placing that. So let's move the income tracker from 0 to 3. Let's look at how the other tiles are affected. Minus 1 for all restaurants built after this one. No other restaurants, so I'm good. However, I did build next to this community park, and there is a condition down here. Plus 1 reputation for each adjacent blue. So let's go ahead and give myself another reputation. And that should be it. The suburbs have no special effect. So let's go ahead and adjust the trackers appropriately, gain some money. I've got an income of 3. So I'm going to go ahead and give myself 3 coin. And I have 3 reputation. So I'm going to go ahead and move my tracker up 3. My little square here, up 3 on the tracker from 4 to 7. And we'll go ahead and seed the market again, move everything to the left of that tile purchase to the right. Draw another one from the A stack, and there you go. Okay, now a few other things I just want to quickly note. Eventually, a player is not going to have enough money to start buying tiles again, at least unless he's got a really high income from the get-go. He only has 5 money left here, so he's going to be very limited as far as what he can purchase. Players can actually turn these tiles up here into lakes and earn some quick cash that way. To do that, a player would just simply pick one from the market, pay the cost above it, not the tile itself, but the cost directly above it. In this case, the player could choose one of these 2 for free, turn that into a lake, pay 2 to turn that into a lake, pay 4 to turn that into a lake, so on and so forth. Let's just say, which one would the player want to turn? Well, this slaughterhouse gives plus 1 for every restaurant, plus 1 income for every restaurant. He has a restaurant here, so he may want to buy that in the future, even though it gives -2 reputation. Mobile home community, I guess we'll just go with that one. And to do that, the player would not have to purchase anything. This is a 0 space. He would simply flip this over and then place it somewhere in their town. They get $2 for each adjacent industrial, community park, green and blue, it's residential and commercial zone. So let's go ahead and place that here for the most effect. That would be 2, 4, 6. So the player would go ahead and earn himself 6 from the market, and I'm out of 1s. Let's go ahead and just get 1 from the bag. There we go. Alright, and we'll go ahead and seed the market again. And that would end their turn. Nothing really happened in terms of reputation or income or population, so nothing was affected there. But it's good just to verify before you end your turn, just so that you're not missing out on anything. And that's really all there is to it. Players just keep taking turns until the one more turn or one more round tile is drawn from the C stack, in which case each player will take one more turn, and after each player has had an equal number of turns, they'll go ahead and calculate their final scores. Players will earn extra population based on any money that they might have left. They'll factor in the goals appropriately to see who gets some extra population. And the person with the most population at the end of the game will win. Some things I didn't touch on, there's some extra factoring in when you're placing 2x tiles. It does double the effect of the tile it's placed on, but it does not affect the special conditions listed on the tiles surrounding it. The red notches on the population board, as players cross those, they'll lose income and reputation on their player board. So players will have to make sure that they're growing not too quickly, but steadily enough to where they stay competitive with everyone else. And yeah, that's basically it. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment in the below description. But for the most part, this is Suburbia. Highly recommend it. Another thing I really like, there is a separate reference guide that came with the game that has every tile listed in here along with their special effect. I have poor eyesight, So trying to determine the positive and negative values on some of these tiles can be a little difficult. Assuming the camera can focus properly, that'd be great, thank you. Yeah, like sometimes it's difficult for me anyway to see. That's a +1, but sometimes I misread that. But if I have any questions, I usually refer to this little guide here, and it usually steers me in the right direction. This reference board is also excellent. I really like that. If I ever lose my way in terms of what I can do on my turn. And the flip side also has some important information on it. As far as when placing a tile, it tells you the order in which you do everything. Pay the cost of the tile shown, adjust according to the immediate effect in the upper right of the tile, adjust according to the conditional effect, adjust according to this, adjust according to that, so on and so forth. So if you're not sure how to resolve things on your turn, check out the reference board there. And there you have it. That's just a very brief look at the game Suburbia. Again, I didn't cover all of the rules found in the manual, but this should just give you a nice general overview as far as how the game is played. You can check out my full review at www.dadsgamingaddiction.com, or you can click on the links in the below description. That'll take you there as well. This is Vince. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.